Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. HBO released one of the opening scenes of House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 1. It features Cregan Stark talking to Jacaerys up at the wall. It's a conversation all about the Night's Watch itself, and sounds like he's explaining how the Night's Watch works to Jacaerys. This is the actual clip.
This is not a sentence, but an honor. Through its long tradition, the Night's Watch cultivated its strength from doomed men who had their life as their only possession.
It's laden with all kinds of Easter eggs and references to the main show, Jon Snow, even Ned Stark. There's even some music Easter eggs during that too, you probably detected. So we'll break it all down. And big reminder too, episodes are starting this weekend. My full episode 1 video will post Sunday night, and I'll be doing videos every single week, just like I did for the original series, like I did for season 1. It is going to be great. Welcome back. The long night is over. We finally have new episodes again. You have to play this clip a couple times to get exactly what Cregan is saying, but he says, through its long tradition, the Night's Watch cultivated its strength from doomed men who had their lives as their only possession. This is not a sentence, but an honor. Sounds very Ned Stark of him. Jon Snow also kind of got that baked into his personality from Ned Stark, this sense of honor and duty. If it wasn't clear from the events of the original series, House Stark in the North is essentially responsible for maintaining the Night's Watch in the Wall, but all the different realms send all their criminals to resupply them with fresh people. But it's not just criminals that make up the Night's Watch. You can actually choose to become part of the Night's Watch, like Jon Snow chooses to take the Black because he's a bastard and he has no chance of actually inheriting anything from the family. All that is meant to pass to Robb Stark because he's the legitimate oldest heir. So you have a lot of bastards, you also have a lot of third and fourth sons in families that feel like they have no prospects, or if the head of one of the houses or even the king, the crown, gets really pissed off at someone, they can also force them to take the Black too. So that's how you wind up with a lot of highborn people in the Night's Watch too. Most of them are given a choice, like either take the Black or we'll chop your head off. It sounds like Cregan is trying to explain the origin of the Night's Watch to Jacaerys, why it exists, what their role in the realm is, how they function, and the fact that in present day, like I said, they gain new members, because in the other trailer footage, you actually see an entourage of the Night's Watch, people wearing black heading north to Castle Black. It looks like as part of this longer scene where they introduce the Wall, the North, Cregan, Stark, you actually see them taking a resupply run to Castle Black. It wasn't always like this. At the Night's Watch peak, long before the time of Aegon the Conqueror, they had about 10,000 soldiers manning 19 castles all along the wall. But in present day, like the events of the main show in House of the Dragon here, all the way up to the events of the Game of Thrones series later in the timeline, there's only 3 castles. The Shadow Tower on the west side, Castle Black in the middle, and then Eastwatch by the Sea on the far right. The main shows provided all this new context for why Aegon decided to conquer the Seven Kingdoms because he got the dragon dream about the Long Night. He felt like the only way that Westeros could survive the Long Night is if it was as a united front, and the only way to do that, because none of the different petty kings of the 7 different kingdoms wanted to ally with each other, he had to conquer them to force them to do that. So after the conquest, Aegon basically dedicated himself to maintaining the peace between the realms, but also restocking, like resupplying, re-upping their interest in keeping the Night's Watch at peak. The timeline on the show is a little bit different. They compress things from the books. On the books, they say the last long night was up to about 8,000 years ago, and it was after that that Bran the Builder built the wall with the help of the Children of the Forest, the giants, everybody else, and then they formed the Night's Watch right after that. So the actual Night's Watch itself is potentially up to about 8,000 years old. By the time those thousands of years go by and Aegon the Conqueror comes along, the realm has essentially forgotten about the last long night, the White Walkers, so they've stopped really caring about the Night's Watch, which is why it's dwindled in its numbers. Aegon comes along and then tries to start beefing it up again after the conquest, but it's still a fraction of its former size. So you have to imagine when Jacaerys is talking to Cregan Stark here, and like a lot of the footage that we don't see, he's giving him this grand PowerPoint tutorial on how everything works up at the wall, why it's his honor and his duty to maintain it as the Lord of Winterfell right now in this part of the timeline. Notice a lot of the Easter eggs going on during this scene too, and some of them we probably don't even see during this clip. Tom Taylor, who's playing Cregan Stark, wearing Ice, the Valyrian greatsword of House Stark, still in one piece, hasn't been melted down by Tywin yet, R.I.P. Ned Stark. He's wearing a traditional fur pelt that a lot of them wore just because it's so cold up there. His armor also, you probably noticed, is the exact same type of armor that Jon Snow wore in present day. It's just typical armor worn by Northerners up through present day too. And he's got that giant House Stark direwolf sigil on his chest. Winter is coming. It would be weird if we don't get a winter is coming during their scenes, because the showrunner did say that they baked in a lot of Easter eggs to Cregan Stark's appearance, just in particular. The music that's playing during that scene, too, when they're on top of the wall and he's explaining the Night's Watch, is meant to be a big callback to the main show, too. Ramin Djawadi does all the music for House of the Dragon, just like he did for Game of Thrones. It's absolute banger. Love all the brand new House of the Dragon music that he's done. For this scene, you probably detected that he's using an updated version of the House Stark theme music. Now, it's not the exact same song they used during the Game of Thrones series for House Stark, but it's extremely similar. There's a lot of examples of that throughout House of the Dragon, like during Season 1, they used the original intro music, just like they used from the original series. This is one of the opening scenes of Episode 1, so it sounds like the timeline went like this. During Season 1, Episode 10, that finale, everybody flies off from Dragonstone in different directions on their dragons to different great houses to secure their loyalty. Lucerys flew his dragon Arax to Storm's End. We saw how that went down. R.I.P. Pour one out for him. Like, press F to pay respects. It informs everything that happens in Episode 1. And generally, the rest of the season, too. Like, it's a big domino effect. Like, it's all about retaliation and escalation from there. Jacaerys flew his dragon Vermax to Winterfell, the actual castle, and in the books, what happened when he went to Winterfell, how long he stayed there, was very different. Like, he was there way longer in the books. On the show, he's only meant to be there for about 10 days, because when Episode 1 picks up, it's only been about 10 days since the finale from Season 1. The books tell that he and Cregan became total bros really quickly. They hung out all the time, hunted together, drank together, trained together. They're meant to be pretty close to the same age. But the idea here is that his scene, his introduction on the show is meant to be very brief during Season 2. He'll become a much bigger character in later seasons, but the idea is that Jacaerys is here on the wall, looking out over the north, talking to him about the history of the Night's Watch, the White Walkers, the Long Night, and he gets a raven from Rhaenyra back at Dragonstone telling him about Lucerys' death and to come immediately home. So that basically cuts his trip north very short. But he leaves with the support of Cregan Stark, who very adamant in his support of Rhaenyra and her claim to the throne, and being really good bros with Cregan Stark just in general. This will also be relevant to Cregan Stark's actions later during the Dance of the Dragons in Season 3 and Season 4 as things continue to escalate and more people begin to die, like really big characters begin to die. But it sounds like on the show, the whole context here is that while Jacaerys went to Winterfell, Cregan was in the middle of doing a resupply run for the Night's Watch. That's why we see them marching through the forest here, and Jacaerys just tagged along with Cregan to Castle Black, and during that, he gives them the big PowerPoint tutorial about how the Night's Watch works. A lot of you will also see the irony that Jon Snow references in this too, because Jacaerys is technically a bastard because he's the son of Harwin Strong. So if that became general public knowledge, like if everybody really learned the truth around the realm, he would be forced to take the Black himself. Just like Jon Snow was encouraged heavily to take the Black. Ned Stark didn't make him take the Black, but he probably liked the idea because he wanted to hide Jon Snow as much as possible, and the more he was up at the north, the less Robert Baratheon could potentially think about him. Like, that boy looks an awful lot like Lyanna Stark, and he's kind of got the same face as Rhaegar Targaryen. What's going on there, Ned? But here's the other big thing, too. A lot of people will be wondering this, especially during this part of the episode. Jacaerys might also know the prophecy about the Long Night while they're up here looking out over the north. He might know all about the White Walkers and the Night King because, per the rules passed down from Aegon the Conqueror, Rhaenyra learns from Viserys in Season 1 that only the heir apparent could be told the prophecy. Now, she did tell Daemon about the prophecy during the finale, but that was only because, for a while when she was younger, she thought that Daemon had been the heir and that Viserys had told him. She learns that that's not so much the case, like he was never told the prophecy, and once he does learn it, he doesn't care about it at all. That was what that whole line was about that they put in all the original trailers for Season 1. Dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did. So Daemon cares nothing for the Night's Watch, the Long Night, the White Walkers, like none of that stuff. After this, though, the whole idea is that she would pass the prophecy to her chosen heir, who is Prince Jacaerys. Even Daemon recognizes Jacaerys as the heir. So while Cregan is here speechifying the Night's Watch, he's probably thinking about the White Walkers in the back of his head. And also on the other side of this too, Cregan Stark might know about the White Walkers because of all the legends passed down in the North just in general. Really good example of this on the main show during Season 1. Old Nan tells Bran all about the Long Night, the White Walkers, the Ice Spiders, big as hounds. Maybe someday we'll actually see a Game of Thrones spin-off series or a prequel with spiders big as hounds. There were so many jokes about that after the main show came out, like, prequels, spiders big as hounds, we'll finally get them. The whole idea is that old Nan heard the stories of the Long Night passed down through generations, like their oral tradition of stories there, not a prophecy like Aegon's. Like, they didn't pass the story down because of a prophecy, they just told stories about it generation to generation over thousands of years. Cragen Stark probably also heard those stories, and it sounds like he might believe some of them, or at least believes them enough to revere the traditions of the Night's Watch and understand why it's so important. But on the other side of that too, it might just be just core Ned Stark, Jon Snow, very duty, honor, balanced sense. Really good example of that is that you're never quite sure what Ned Stark believes in terms of like the White Walkers, the Long Night, or any of that stuff. He might think that it's ridiculous, but because he believes that it is duty, his honor to uphold the Night's Watch, he doesn't care about any of that. He just continues maintaining the Night's Watch. When Tom Taylor is speaking as Cragen Stark here, you can also detect a lot of that northern accent, like he's trying to do his best Ned Stark impression here with Sean Bean's accent, Jon Snow's accent. This is just their general northern accent that they'd be speaking with because they grew up in the north here. You can let me know in the comments though, do you think that Ned Stark believed any of the legends of the Long Night, the White Walkers, the Night King, or did he just think it was all children's tales? The whole point, though, is it didn't really matter. Like, he was going to do what he was ordered to do per being the Lord of Winterfell. So if he was bound to maintain the Night's Watch per the rules of the realm, he would have done it no matter what, like even if he didn't believe in the Long Night. Really big reminder that episodes are starting soon. My full episode 1 video will post next. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it. And click here for all my other House of the Dragon videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.